Before there were Twitter threads and TikTok explainers, there was the Dash. It was a time when gifs were gospel, text posts were prophecies, and fandoms waged war in tags like ancient kingdoms, fighting over sacred land. This wasn't just about fictional characters kissing. This was about pride, identity, community, control, and sometimes just pure chaos. Welcome to the wars that broke Tumblr. Episode 1, The Shipping Wars. To understand the shipping wars, you have to understand the battlefield, and in 2013, the battlefield was Tumblr. More than just a blogging platform, Tumblr was the fandom capital of the internet, a kingdom ruled not by logic, but by vibes, memes, and the reblog button. The Tumblr fandom wasn't a subculture, it was the culture. Everything from your URL to reblog tags could tell people where you stood. Shipping, headcanons, meta-analysis, slow burn fanfiction that could rival epic novels. It all thrived on Tumblr, and it wasn't just accepted, it was celebrated. But with that freedom came intensity, and with intensity came conflict, because in the fandom capital, nothing was ever just fun and games. Before the wars, there was peace, or at least the illusion of it. Characters exchanged a glance, a touch, a moment of tension, and Tumblr noticed, and then Tumblr obsessed. It started slow, fanfiction, fan art, gifs that looped a look 1 second too long, but soon, entire identities were forged in the fires of will they, won't they. Shipping became a league, a lifestyle, a declaration. People didn't just like a ship, they were that ship. Fandoms formed like nations, URLs changed, bios aligned, tags were filled with love letters and analysis so detailed it could pass for academic research. The ships were rising, and so were the stakes. It didn't start as a war, just a few disagreements, a couple of tense posts, some tagged replies with hey, maybe don't put that in the main tag. But on Tumblr, conflict spreads fast. One post becomes a debate becomes a fight becomes a movement. The match was the canon, the fuel was shipping, the spark, people who care too much, which on Tumblr meant basically everyone. But suddenly, users weren't just defending their ships, they were defending their values, their identities, the right to interpret stories on their own terms. People who once reblogged each other's fan art were now blogging each other over a tag, and somewhere in the chaos, the tone shifted from passion to paranoia, from excitement to delusion. The conflict had ignited, and it wasn't burning out anytime soon. What started as debates about fictional relationships turned into moral crusades. Around this time, a new divide took a hold of the Dash, the pro-shippers and the anti-shippers. Pro-shippers believed in full creative freedom. Fiction is fiction, even the messy stuff. They argued that tagging, filtering, and curating your experience was the way to go. Anti-shippers believed some ships crossed the line, that there were things that shouldn't be romanticized, even in fan works. To them, some content wasn't just distasteful, it was dangerous. And let me tell you, the debate didn't stay civil for long. Call-out posts, block lists, and vague reblogs that turned into accusations, mass reporting, and harassment campaigns. The lines between critique and attack blurred. Suddenly, fandoms were not just about ships. It was about ethics, about safety, about who belonged in the space, and who needed to be deplatformed. This wasn't just shipping discourse anymore. This was Tumblr's fandom culture, fracturing in real time. By the time the dust settled, no one really knew who won, or if anyone did. Dashes that were once full of fan art and excitement were now ghost towns. Friends had blocked each other, blogs had been deleted, some users left the site entirely. The joy of shipping had been replaced by paranoia. People second-guessed every reblog, every tag. Posts came with disclaimers, content warnings, apologies in advance. Tumblr, once the fandom capital of the internet, was now scattered, fragmented, turned into echo chambers, private blogs, and reblogs with the tags turned off. Some tried to pretend it never happened, others rebranded, moved fandoms, changed URLs like survivors starting over, such as when Hiroshima got their shit rocked. It was a wasteland. And yet, people stayed. Even in the ruins, they kept posting, kept shipping, because for all the drama, all the fighting, Tumblr was still home. But things weren't the same, and they wouldn't be. Not after that. So, what was all of that? Was it about two fictional men and a decades-long queerbait? Yeah, but also no. It was about so much more. People poured themselves into these ships, into fan art, meta and text posts with 3,000 notes and no punctuation. It was messy. It was obsessive. It was kind of beautiful. And yes, it got bad. You know what? It got really bad, but underneath all the yelling, there was something very human going on. Fandom was where people found each other, found language for things that hadn't been named yet, found comfort in characters, in community, even in chaos. Tumblr made everything feel bigger, more urgent, more personal, because on here, it always was. Anyway, that was the shipping wars. Tumblr survived, barely, and so did we. The Dash was never the same after 2013, but trust me, there are other wars, because when it comes to Tumblr, the conflicts were just beginning. Sorry in advance.